All right, guys, welcome back to the Free Life Agents podcast. Today, I have with me a special guest, and if you are watching this on video, you can see that he has a wonderful, beautiful backdrop behind him, very reflective of his personality and his soul as well. But this person is a very interesting individual with a lot of interesting experiences. He's working on many different things, many different businesses at this point right now, and we are going to get into all of this as well. But please welcome to the show my good friend Kevin Work all the way in Mexico. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you, Kobe. So good to be here, brother. Thanks for letting me to come on the space and share and just be a part of this awesome podcast.
Yeah, no, thank you, Kevin. Thank you for taking some time out of your day for being on being a guest on here. I know you're super busy. So I know I introduced you a little bit. I know you got a lot going on and a ton of experience in your books. So if you wouldn't mind just kind of introducing yourself to the guests, letting them know um our listeners know a little bit more about yourself and what you did in the past and what you're doing right now and how that all fits together.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you, man. Uh it's been a journey to say the least for the last 3 years for sure. To give a little background on who I am and like what I've gone through and what I've experienced. I've had different lifetimes really in this one lifetime so far. I started off as a political science major in undergrad, and then I worked on political campaigns. I worked in Congress, and I lived in DC. And I just got burnt out. I was bartending at night. I was working on day in Capitol Hill, and it was just a lot of dark energy there. So I retreated. I went to Florida State for graduate school. There, I double mastered in public health and international relations, the focus on urbanization and urban planning. And from there, I worked a couple of years doing nonprofit work, helping housing people in housing situations with federal grants out in Jacksonville, Florida. And then I just decided to, during that time when I was working there, I was going through the process of becoming a Peace Corps volunteer. And it's always one of the dreams of mine was to be a volunteer in the Peace Corps. And I was grateful enough, gracious enough, all of it, to receive an invitation. So I was in for almost 3 years in Macedonia, which is right above Greece in the Balkans. I was there for doing community development work, youth development work, and just being a community member for about 3 years there. And yeah, so really my focus most of my life has been in international waters. Like loved being abroad, love experiencing different cultures, love being within communities. And so when I returned from the Peace Corps, I switched from this public servant, heart-centered person to a very business-centered person. I went into tech. I got into tech sales. Was in law school for 2 years. I decided to leave law school because I just desired the law I desired to do was paying about $45,000 a year, and that was in Seattle. So that was been like poverty line, and I just didn't feel like doing the corporate world. So thus I switched over to sales. I did tech sales for about 2 years. Was very profitable there, and then I just got tired of being working with business to business. So I wanted to get back to people, and that's where real estate found me. I worked for 4 years in real estate in Seattle. Um, and built a really beautiful business, was super customer focused. I didn't have any Facebook ads. I didn't have any what you would call marketing. It was really belly to belly. I worked in a WeWork office. I was one of the first agents in Seattle to think about going to a WeWork place and just having an office there. And so a lot of my clientele came from my friends that I made there. And then, yeah, after my experience in real estate, I did a couple bad deals. I got into with a couple wrong people, or just whatever. My vibration wasn't in the highest. And so I attracted some people in my life, got into some major debt, and I just fled all the responsibilities, left the world, had my awakening, moved to Hawaii, lived in a van for about 6 months, and I haven't looked back, and I haven't really gone back into the corporate or business per se, like building a brick and mortar business world, for almost 4 years now. And yeah, I went through some really tough times, physically, mentally, spiritually, financially. I had to go through a bankruptcy, which was, I self-represented myself, so that was a very interesting aspect of it too. It wasn't that hard, but like the ramifications of it for 2 years was not fun. But at the same time, being anchored down with bad debt like that, you didn't want to carry for 20 years. So, and now I am presently here in beautiful Mexico. I've been in Mexico, in and out of Mexico for the past 2 years. I would say 70% of the time I've had a home base here. Um, and yeah, I'm just accumulating all these beautiful experiences and skills I have in my past, and creating new businesses, new services, new multi-dimensional income sources, because that's what I choose to do. So that's me. That's who I am. That's where I'm at right now. And um, I'm super focused on energy, health, and helping people become better versions of themselves. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Wow, Kevin, man, that is quite a resume, right? Like you said, I mean, it's like multiple different lifetimes in one lifetime. And
Mm-hmm.
if you guys are watching this on video, Kevin, he's super young. He probably looks even younger than he actually is. but but yeah, no, it's really all about the experiences, and that's why you're such a wise person, is because of all the experiences that you've had. And something you touched on that I just have to expand on, and I know probably not the brightest point of all that story, but working at Capitol Hill, working on Congress, what
Yeah,
did
yeah.
you do and how was that?
Oh man. So I can give you the lens of what it was like when I was there, and I can give you the lens of what it is like when I'm in my more awakened,
Yeah.
mindset of what politics actually is. So when I was in my early 20s, um, I was really impressionable, like most are, right? And I was really gun ho, and I worked for a congressman. Basically, I answered phones, I took emails, and so whenever you or a constituent emails or calls the congressman, congresswoman, they have a slew of aides that work with them. So, and there's levels of them. So I was in the introduction level, and then I got into policy work a little later on. But in the beginning, I answered calls, I coded calls. So basically, you get 100 people talking about, um, they didn't like the president or they didn't like the policy, whatever, and you just code it. And then after a week, you submit your report to the Congress, not even to the congressman. You submit the report to his or her LA, legislative aid, and then they bring it to the congressman. There is levels and levels and levels to meeting these congressmen and getting your actual opinions to them. And I was one of the cogs in the system there. So it was very high energy, very alpha energy. Everybody was trying to move up. Everyone was trying to get the next best deal. And it was exhausting, to tell you the truth. It was very two-faced, very, very polarizing, very and at the same time, though, I made some really good friends. I had good friends there. I had a great experience. I loved DC's metro. I loved, being able to be in a multicultural area. I loved being able to go to the museums. So those things I really did enjoy. And then my lens presently, it's really just confirms, honestly, that there's so much detachment with our leaders that have a 20% approval rating right now. And it's they don't have our interest. And even working then 15 years ago in congressional offices, you saw that. They didn't really care about their aides that much. They didn't care much. They just were cycled in every 2 years, or they just were there for so long that they just didn't care. And again, general statement, I'm sure there's some really good, awesome people who do. But overall, the corporate interests, people with money, people with influence are the ones who get into the door, into the congressmen's or congresswoman's offices. Yeah.
Wow, so that's a pretty big distinction, not just from like what most people might think of like what politics is, right? Which is supposed to be serving the public. but and
Yep. Well, that's so they serve. That's public service. Public service is right. Like, you serve the public. Elected officials, they only serve the people who elect them. And if you ever, there's a great book. It's called The Dictator's Handbook, and it talks about like how how great of a democracy we have, which we don't. It's not a democracy; it's a representative government. So, if you take a city, for example, like Houston, right, and you're like, oh, how many people actually vote in Houston? And in the certain district, congressional district. So say you get 100,000 people who vote in this congressional district. Okay, so you only need 51%, or sometimes you just need a plurality, which is just basically the most. If there's 3 people, right, like you only have to have 40%. So you could get somebody who is representing 3 million people population that only had 50,000 votes. And then you have to ask yourself, well, how did they get the votes? Well, they talk to the right people who get people to vote. So it's a really a backwards concept of how we should be represented, but it's what we got right now, and it's just so our public servants are really the ones who go in and work every day. They are supposed to have the best interest. The elected officials, on the other hand, their only responsibility is to be reelected. Yeah.
Exactly. I think that's a great point that you just made. Their only responsibility is to be reelected. So you see so many people, in office, and they don't know. Like, it doesn't even seem like they know what they're doing. Like, they don't know why they want to take a certain office. They don't know why they want to take a certain position. They just know they have to do it because that's literally their job, is to move up in the political ladder instead of
Mm-hmm.
actually accomplishing anything of tangible value.
Yeah, and we see that in our modern system of like you get career politicians. There should be term limits. You shouldn't have 80-something-year-old people who've been in government for 40 years representing in any capacity, because even just going there for 1 year when I was working, and how many, like, I wouldn't say bribes, that's a really strong word, but like questionable things that you see happen, not just with the Congress people, but their legislative aides. They get paid off to talk to the congressmen. So like there's just levels, and lobbyists are just pouring money into these places because it's their interest to do it. They represent corporations, they represent pharmaceuticals, everything that you think that is like in a negative context. There's lobbyists for that. There's actual people who are like saying, no, rat poison is a good thing for people. Can you vote for this? That's just truth of it, man. It's just truth of it.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is that, with as much, conflict and unrest and whatever tragedy that happened, the past couple of years with the pandemic and the shutdowns and everything, I think what I'm seeing a lot is that people are beginning to realize this. They're taking a more of an interest in it. They're understanding a little bit more about what's going on. Or at least they're just taking an interest in, being able to get get more information, right?
Yeah, and what also, Kobe, is people have more time. We all have the same
Mm.
24 hours. We all understand that concept, right? It's how we use our time. But at the same time, there you don't have to go. People didn't need to go to commute. There was this like renaissance of this world, of this Zoom concept of having this. And so yes, there was more information, and people had more time to investigate and to ask these questions, and they'll be like, and this is why all the network news stations are plummeting, because people aren't tuned in. They don't need someone to tell them how to think anymore. Now they're asking the questions, and they're getting alternative options, right? And I'm not saying you have to listen to like one side or the other side, but I always like to skim the other sides, perspectives, things that I don't really agree with, to see how they market it, how they promote it. Then you're like, okay, well, I'm either certain, I feel good about what I believe, or oh, maybe they actually bring up a good point. I'm going to research this myself. And I feel like people are starting to do their own research. And this is probably like why you're seeing so much shifting in like markets of like real estate. For example, EXP is another example of like people are tuning into that. They're like, you're telling me I don't have to pay as much to Keller Williams and all this bullshit. I don't have to have all these offices. I can just live how I want, create how I want, and create a leveraged income. And then when that's what it is, people are starting to learn more and more because they have more time to learn. They're not in the rat race so to speak, as much as they were before it. So it's kind of a backfire that happened with the whole lockdowns. People, and it did scare a lot of people, and a lot of people got to a point in different points of the lockdown where they woke up. They're like, there's something wrong here. There's something, it just doesn't feel right. And yeah, and it's beautiful to see. And it's really beautiful to see.
I mean, is that something that you kind of realized as you were working in Capitol Hill, or is that something that
Mm.
you've always known and then just kind of had this perception of what Capitol Hill was like, and you might that came in with the idea that you want to go change it? Or
Oh, I had total desire to be within that world and to be in Congress and
wow.
to be a congressman. I totally had political ambitions, um, and I did desire that world. And once I was in it, though, and saw the usage of stimulants in all capacities, caffeine, cocaine, anything and everything people use on constant, because you always have to be on. More action, more emails, more text, more, and it drove people to prescription drugs. It drives people to alcohol. Like the amount of people, like my alcohol consumption went vastly up once I was in DC, because that's what you do. You work hard, you go to the gym, then you go to happy hour, you get drunk, you do it again the next day, because that's how deals get done. All right, so yeah, I definitely had the desire to be in it and to work in it. And but once you're in it, and then you're walking around it, and then you realize, like, you don't even realize it at the time, you have to take some time away from it. But yeah, man, like the things I saw, it didn't register to me in some capacities. And then I started learning more things over the last few years of, like, I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes here, but then it just clicks. You're just like, wow, I saw that. I saw these things up close and personal. I saw these tunnels that go under DC all over, that Congress people don't have to go above DC at all. They have like infinite passes to go everywhere in DC in these underground tunnels. And it's just wild in some of these places on how inaccessible our public officials are to us.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's quite eye opening. And I don't, we kind of go down this rabbit hole again. But you mentioned a word in there that was really interesting, a substance that I think I mean, I'm sure most people already like just know this, but like the fact that you actually worked in it, that you said that cocaine was being used essentially recreationally, and the way you mentioned it was almost like a brush off, right?
Yeah, I mean, cocaine, like what I've realized is there's multiple uses of drugs. Cocaine is one that is not is available for people. Anyone can get that. It's not a prescription drug, right? You have to have a doctor's note to get some of these prescription drugs, which are multi-billion-dollar. So they're all drugs, Kobe, right? Like in some capacity. But the Zolofts, you name it, you name any prescription drug, anything to alter our capacity, speed us up, lower us down, even us up, whatever that is, it's all a drug. It's something to take us away from our present moment. And with things that are stimulants, caffeine, for example, I have friends who are addicted to caffeine, and I have friends who are addicted to cocaine. I have friends who are addicted to weed, and they use it as a form of escape or to try to be better. So I feel in DC at the time, weed wasn't legal, right? So most people didn't smoke weed. They weren't trying to enhance their consciousness. Weed really does anchor you in, and it expands your consciousness to a certain level. Cocaine speeds you up. And in that world, when you're in it like that high energy, this is why like cities and places like New York, most people do cocaine, or LA or Vegas, because it's the speed that people try to be within, and they try to be in that speed. If you go out to the country, you're not going to find people doing cocaine. You may find people smoking pot because they're chill and they're just trying to connect with the nature. But in these hyper focused, masculine, just abusive areas, people feel like a need to have an edge And some people go to cocaine, some people go to caffeine, some people go to what have it, chocolate, right? I mean, that's maybe not chocolate, but like they go to something that enhances them to be in a higher state, to do more. Yeah.
So is that kind of like, and we can kind of get into, and you can kind of tell the the audience a little bit more about kind of what you're doing with the water business and the consciousness of health. But
Yeah.
is that kind of like how you, because it really kind of resonates with me that you're telling the story of what you're doing now and what you saw in the past of why you decided to take the route of going like building a health conscious business
Mm.
and helping people with like natural health instead of chemically made stimulants. I mean, did that have a big part to play? I mean, I think it obviously did, right?
Yeah, so that's a good question. When I was always a healthy person and I always was active, but I also drank a lot. I really had a tendency to drink a lot, and it'd be happy hours, but I noticed it got to a point where it wasn't healthy, and about 3 years ago when I started paying attention to what I was consuming, that was the big shift in my life of, instead of what am I doing, how am I doing, who am I talking to, when I started to focus on what's here, what do I have control of, and I started tuning in, what am I putting into my body. And that's when I connected with somebody who was doing a health line that did green smoothies and like protein powders. And this is when I switched completely from being in real estate. I switched to health and fitness.
Mhm.
I just always had a thing for public health. I loved like helping people get healthy in communities. When I was in that realm, my focus would be on like exercise and like healthy eating, even though it wasn't as in depth as it is now. That was always my focus, was giving people the option, the ability to choose for themselves, their choices. And that's what it really comes down to, is, are you empowering people or are you trying to manipulate somebody? And what tools, what vehicles do you have to help that process? And so for me, when I started feeling better and putting better things into my body, I started asking more questions. I was drinking bottled water because I knew tap water was shit. I knew fluoride was bad. I knew chlorine, really messes up your endocrine system. But I was drinking bottled water. Then I switched to alkaline water because why? I learned a little bit more. I learned, like, you know what? Our water, even bottled water, is acidic, and acidic's not good for us. Cool, alkaline water. I'll pay $2 for this bottle. Why? Because I felt better drinking it. And when I started feeling better, I wasn't as worried about all the externals. So that to me was a piece of freedom that I really didn't know how I could duplicate that outside of being in fitness. And after a long road trip across the US, I ended up in a buddy's house that he was just one of my good friends when I lived down in Seattle. And we went to go fill up some water. He's like, bro, you want to go fill up some water with me? And I was like, sure, man. Like, I'm guessing we're going to Whole Foods. You got like a couple of these gallons. Cool, I'll go. And we drove for 20 minutes. And I was like, we passed all these, these places. I was like, bro, where are you going? He's like, I got to fill up my water. He went to his buddy's house. He had this weird, little weird machine on his counter. And I had no idea what it was. I was just talking, and my buddy got me, like a big bottle, and he filled it up for me. And I was staying at his house for 4 days. And I remember, again, I didn't really know what it was. He's just filling up water. I thought it was like some water filter, like Berkey or something, right? Okay. And little did I know, that moment in time shifted everything in my life. It really shifted it to, Kev, here is an opportunity. This is what you've been calling in, because I had no way of like really creating service. I really didn't know what to do. And I remember, and I was drinking, and I was still doing some things. I wasn't like unhealthy, but I wasn't my prime. I wasn't feeling great. And I remember the first 3 days of drinking this water, Kobe, like I didn't know what it was. I was mispronouncing it. I had no idea. My buddy kept telling me about it, but I don't know what it is. Kangen, whatever. I don't care. But I remember, bro, like just feeling, I felt hydrated. And it's hard to describe the actual feeling unless you experience it. Like I just felt like calm. I felt clear. I didn't have morning like cloudiness. I didn't need a cup of coffee. I remember meditating out in the backyard and I felt tapping right here between my eyebrows. I didn't know what that was until later when I learned what a pineal gland was and learning that it was actually decalcifying my pineal gland. It was basically opening up my intuition because this is what the water does. And the biggest shift for me, though, it wasn't just like that. I mean, that was a huge opening because I never experienced something like that. But the biggest thing for me, I remember I made dinner one night for my friend and his wife, and it was this nice Italian meal. I bought a good bottle of wine. I was pouring the wine. I drank a little bit of it. I loved wine too, man. I loved it. It was like one of my favorite drinks. And I'd be that guy who had like one glass, pour a little bit for friends, but finishes the bottle, right? Because I just enjoy red wine. And I remember pouring it and I tasted it. And I was like, oh man, I can't believe I paid $50 for this bottle of wine and it tastes turned. You know, you ever get that vinegary taste? Like that's what it tasted like. And then my friends were like, this is great wine. What are you talking about? And I tasted it again and I was like repulsed by it. And Kobe, that was the last time I had a drink of alcohol. 2.5,
Wow.
almost 3 years ago, of somebody who was like so substance cued in to me. Like I have no desire now. I smell it. I see it. And I'm just like, no. I see people drinking a cold beer in Mexico. I'm like, that's probably nice. But then I smell it and I look at it, or then I just like see like how they're kind of like stumbling. And I'm like, no, you know? So like to me, that brought me sobriety. Like my moment of sobriety was that moment. And the only thing I shifted was the water I was drinking.
Wow.
And that's when I did everything in my power to purchase it. I worked 4 different jobs. Um, things I do. I sold jewelry. I did like 4 different things, like just to make that money to get this machine because I knew it was what was I needed. And then 4 months later, even though the person who sold it to me kept telling me there's a business, Kev, there you should talk to him. I'm like, nah, man, keep that away from me. I'm good. Like I don't want business. I don't want it. And then when I started accepting it and started sharing, people started asking me, hey, what are you drinking? Can I get one? And it got to a point where I just called my friend Chris. Is like, Chris, I get these people keeps asking me about it. Like, what do I do? He's like, just connect them with me. I just have a 3-way call with them, and he helps them purchase their machines. That was it. And that has been the essence of me serving and learning about water, is just like learning a little bit more, talking about my story and sharing it with other people and empowering them and having their own stories, right? It's not like everybody's getting, I would say cured, but like reversed off of alcohol. There's diabetes, you name it, like, you know, psoriasis, there's people going with obesity problems, there's people with drug related problems, people who are trying to get off or high blood pressure medicine, all because of water. So yeah, man, that it was in a long nutshell, you know, from my experiences, I just had this opportunity the universe provided because it was for me. It was something that was aligned with me because I knew the product I was sharing, it wasn't just a product, it was something that was going to help them, their family, and their community, even if they just only bought one machine. There was no like, I need to coach you to keep buying and keep selling. It was just like a ability to help them and their family with one purchase. And yeah, it just really, everything in my tech sale background, public service, health, wellness, and my desire to live abroad and to live my own lifestyle, it just all kind of came together perfectly for me.
Wow. So that's actually a really cool story of how you kind of came across that as well. And I think it's super interesting because, you know, a lot of times you hear of these people and they're, you know, it's they take medicine, right? Like you said. And it's not like people will live and die by medicine. And like I'm not shitting on like, modern medicine or anything like that. I mean,
Right.
obviously done a lot for, humanity and the our health, but you don't really think about it, is that you only need medicine to fix something that's wrong with you. So if
Mm,
and it's not always going to be like, what if there's just nothing wrong with you, right? Then you won't need it. So you kind of want to
mm,
start from the source.
mm. It's beautiful, absolutely. And origin, right? Like the word Kangen water means return to origin in Japanese. It's returning our bodies to an equilibrium, right? So I'm with modern medicine. Look, if I get hit, no, I'm not gonna say that. If somebody gets hit by a bus, I'm going to suggest that they need to go to a doctor. Don't try to just drink water, right? Like if there's some things, yes, definitely appreciate advanced medicine. At the same time, you said it, man. Like the word dis-ease, dis-ease, when our bodies are not in ease anymore, right? That's when we are unhealthy. That's when we get into this acidic states and we start feeling bad. And what do? We're programmed to go to the doctor. We're programmed to go to the over the counter. Aspirins, NyQuil, DayQuil, all of these things are so bad for us. Are so bad, but they're so marketed to us that, oh, they're just over the counter. They're nice and light. No, some of these are like meth, and they really do block your ability to connect with source, your ability to heal yourself, your ability to think properly. And this is the whole goal of the pharmaceutical company, is to give you into a state where you are so in fear, you buy more pharmaceuticals, you reach out to more doctors, you spend more money on shit you don't need. Why? Is because that keeps you in the slavery wheel. That keeps you spinning. That doesn't allow you the opportunity to be like, what if I don't eat this food? What if I choose to buy organic food? What if I take my power back? And that's what it really comes down to, Kobe, and what I'm working with people one-on-one and one person at a time. It's just showing them that reflection of, you have the whole power. It's your choice, right? Just know though, we've been so clouded with programming, with marketing, with all these agencies that are telling us what we need to do, instead of listening to our internal guidance, like you were saying. What about natural remedies? And this is why so many people get knocked down or mysteriously removed when they start talking about natural remedies. So, yeah, man, you're on the right path with that statement for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want us to get all deplatformed for for this, but I think we're safe.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I think it all starts with, like you were just saying that too. It starts with education, right? Because a lot of people are just ignorant. And from what I know, so I know a couple of like actual like medical freaking professionals, like PhDs, and what they like their congruent opinion on medicine is just like, it's always a risk and reward. It's never just, I feel bad, I take this and I'm better. No, there's a consequence with every drug, right? Drug, like you said, that you take. There's a consequence with every
A side
prescribed
effect. A
yeah.
side effect. That's what they call it. They trivialize it by saying it's a side effect. Okay. When was the last time anyone had a side effect of eating spinach? When was the last time someone had a side effect of drinking better water? The side effects of that is improved health. The risk, the reward is, with these pharmaceutical companies, right? And to go down the rabbit hole, ask yourself, who owns the corporations? Where did pharmaceuticals come from? When you start asking these questions, you start learning about John D. Rockefeller. You start learning about these people that took away all the opportunity for people to have their own natural health, and started selling them petroleum laced pharmaceuticals that detrimental to their health. And when they're getting sicker, what do? They get prescribed more pharmaceuticals, right? And that's one side of it. The other side of it is our food supply, is our water supply. And those two Within the middle, the government, they're all in bed together, extorting us, our livelihoods, our life force for their profit. It's not that they're bad people, it's that they're not people. These aren't people. These are dark energies that are living and breeding off of our desire to feel healthy, our desire to have a long lifestyle. 100 years ago, there were no pharmaceuticals. There was no fructose corn syrup. People who were elected officials had to go talk to constituents. So the system has really shifted, and it's our awareness now of like, okay, now we know what's happening. Well, what can we do about it?
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting point you made there about, how these things didn't exist 100, 200 years ago. And then what I hear a lot from the opposing side, and I kind of want to hear your thoughts on this as well, because I never really kind of know like what the what will the response be like from the opposing side is that, well, now, with modern medicine, we live a lot longer, right? Like the statistics are showing that we have a longer life expectancy. And how would you respond to somebody who would say that?
What type of life are you living when you're taking 8 pills? You can't really think for yourself. You're on high blood pressure because all the meat that you're eating is vasted with antibiotics. Okay, so
Hmm.
modern medicine, a lot of the people who've been the curriculum for doctors to go through medical school, they are good at patching things up. Somebody sick comes to them, okay, what's going on and how can we get you back to equilibrium? How can we get you back to before you had the reason you had to come in here? That's their goal, is to divide that. But when you ask them, how many nutritional classes did you take? How much preventative health did you learn? Zero, maybe one class. So you have to ask yourself, okay, what's wrong with this system? Yes, people are living longer. Compare. Let's look at Japan again. Japan has this excellent healthcare system where actually most of Asia has this concept. They pay their doctors for healthy clients. How many clients, how little clients do you have? You actually get paid more in Japan. Here in the States, it's a broken system because the more clients you have, the more patients you have, the more money you make. And then you have to pay your insurance premiums and you have to grow it. So if you want to make money, you have to keep churning people. Oh, okay, well, pharmaceuticals are going to give me $30,000 to prescribe this drug. Great. So yes, there are good things about modern medicine. Like I said, like there are things that I agree with. The vast majority of it, I respectfully disagree with. And it's not that one's right or one's wrong. It's just they take different approaches, and you'll have to ask yourself, okay, do I desire to take a pill to remedy something, or do I choose to make different lifestyle choices? What's out there in the natural world? People who are living to 100 years old in these blue zones. I know, are you familiar with blue zones?
I'm not. I've never heard of that before.
So blue zones are areas in this world where they have the highest concentration of centurions, people 100 years old and over. Costa Rica, Okinawa, Japan, there's some places. The few main things that they have is they have an active lifestyle. They have good, clean, living water, not just water, but it has to be living. 99% of the water people drink is dead. That's a whole nother concept to share. And then food. Not everybody's plant-based vegan, right? They eat, though, natural food. They don't eat processed food. So they don't need modern medicine when they're eating to live, not living to eat. When they're hydrating their bodies, when they're in social interactions where they're within a community. Those are the three main things that people in these that live the longest, that's their standard. So I would choose, if I had the choice of, okay, Kev, you can live to 100 years old. Here's your choices. You can do those three things, have good community, eat really natural foods, and drink really good water. Or go to the modern medicine route. Cool. I can eat the hamburgers, the cheeseburgers. I can drink my Diet Cokes. I can have my Mountain Dew. I don't have to exercise. I don't need to be on. I can be on my computer all day and play World of Warcraft. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore, but like, I can do that. And then all I need to do is take these pills that they're prescribed to me that I have 10 side effects. So I take more of it. So cool. I'm anxious. I don't feel good. I'm overweight. I'm taking more pills. And I'm living to 100. How many though people live to 100 in modern medicine though? Most people die off around retirement age is because they stop being active, and the drugs really start impacting your health. So yes, on average, our life expectancy is going up. It's because we're taking care of our water, right? We're sanitizing our water. People are being more active, right? Like, it's not modern medicine's grand, thing that they changed. They do have some great things when it comes to emergencies. Yes, agreed. Emergency purposes, 99% of the day, though, preventative. What are we doing to extend, to elongate our lifestyles, to have more fulfilling life? Like, we can live 100 years on pills, or we can live 80 free, clear, and in the most natural way, feeling like we are our own sovereign beings.
Wow. Yeah. And maybe I'm just hedging my bets a little bit here, but I know there's going to be people, or maybe not even like when I first released, but there are going to be people who listen to this. And even though you've provided so much insight into our bodies and healthy living, they're just not going to agree with it. And they just stand by their opinions, and, who knows why, but like, if you had to, say like one thing to them, like what would it be to try to get them? Because in my opinion, I think most of it is rooted in just ignorance. People just are not educated enough.
And it's people can only receive information as they're ready to receive it. We're all energy. What I'm saying may come off to people as a little woo-woo, a little high energy. Okay, Kev, yes, we get it. Cool. If your lifestyle of how you're living is fulfilling, if you feel optimal, if you feel great, by all means, live your life. You can disagree with me. You don't have to be disagreeable, though, right? If you are happy and healthy and you're feeling good, and you found all meat Diet Coke focused lifestyle that makes you feel really good, by all means, cool. I like to work with the people who are at that stage and are like, I just need help, or the people who are like, I'm feeling good, I'd love to feel better. So those people are the ones that I love. The people who are everyone, like, I choose to let them make their decisions, but I'm open to helping the people who are open to being helped. And that's me giving them their power back. So yeah, it's a great question, man. And like, whenever somebody comes to me and says like, well, I read this in an article, that's great. Have you tried something different? Have you tried? No. Okay. How can I help you? I don't know. Okay. Have a great day. Okay. People are just so programmed in this argumentative world that they just want to argue because that's the only way that they know how to. And in moments like that, Kobe, just showing love, man. It's just like, look, they are just a reflection of who I am. I was there once. I was over consuming news. I was drinking coffee. I thought I was the most intellectual being in the world. And I would do those things. And I would say like, oh no, crazy PETA people like caring about animals. Or like, I would say things like that where I would just so shut it out, is because I wasn't open to learning something new. Right. And I'm trying to think, is it Zig Ziglar who talks about like, to be successful, you have to be open to being able to learn new information? One of the main marketing guys. I mean, and it's true. Like, if you're not open to receive, you're not going to be able to receive. Right.
Exactly. And I think maybe like there's a reason why, and I see kind of a trend of a lot of people in business, a lot of entrepreneurs who are kind of moving more into the, it seems like all entrepreneurs kind of all agree on the same social issues. And then people from the outside looking in, they're like, well, why do they all agree? Right. And they kind of, some people take out the pitchforks and the, the torches, and they're like, well, they're the rich elites and they're just trying to whatever. Capitalism sucks. But no, I think it's a conditioning thing with a lot of entrepreneurs, like you said. Because in business you kind of realize that same principle that you were just describing, where if somebody's not open to, right, if you're selling something, someone's not open to buy, right, they're not open to receive. They're not open to receive. Instead of wasting your time trying to argue with them and convince somebody who's a dead end, you move on to the next person who's actually willing to have you help them.
Exactly. Bless the person, send them good vibes, and then just say, great, who can I help today?
Yeah.
Somebody's going to come, and if you waste more time on the people who are not open to receive, you're not helping the next person. And what's helpful for me with the line of work, one of my businesses with the water, is universally people are interested in learning about water. Food's another thing. Food people get very, very really strong about, but overall you say, what about water? You think it'd be good to have the best drinking water at your home? Most people will be like, yeah. And those are like, no, I got Brita. Cool. Let me ask the next person. Can I share with you something that I learned about water? And that's where you're talking about the ignorance. It's like, great. We know where I'm ignorant on so many things, right? There's so many things I don't know, but I'm open to learning. And so asking people, are you open to learning something new? That's such a magic question, because even if they're that one of those people who just you think are going to be argumentative, if you just ask them that, are you open to learning something new? Most of the time, they're going to be like, yeah, actually, I am. Thank you for asking. And then you can share. I think in sales and a lot of the marketing world, it's like, how can I get this person on a webinar to show them something that I want that's going to benefit me? It may benefit them, but there. Instead of asking them right away, like, are you open to learning something? And yeah, that's just been really successful for me of connecting with people, is just asking, are you interested in learning? And that's where the true gift is. That's the true, it's not the product, it's the education. So they may not buy from me today. Kobe, I've had people who would buy 2 years, like 2 years ago, I talked to them. And then, last month, hey, I'm ready to buy. Out of nowhere. I had nothing. Somebody probably sparked some sort of talk with them. And then they're like, oh my God, I remember Kevin talking about this. And it is because I was detached from the outcome. Like, my goal is just to share water, answer questions to the best of my ability. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. And I think that's why it makes me so much more reachable than most people who are in those higher end fields, because I'm open to learning. Most doctors aren't open to learning. Most scientists aren't open to learning. They're open to scrutinizing. They're open to solving problems. I'm open to educating.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. That's an interesting point. And for better or for worse, right? Like past couple of years of the pandemic, doctors and scientists are losing their kind of credibility a little bit, for better or for worse. You can have your opinions on that, but
They're
they
not
are
perfect. They're not perfect.
Yeah.
Like, we put them on a pedestal before. Scientists, we put them on a pedestal. They're just humans who are trained in the art of logical reasoning. Great. But sometimes when you're too much in the mind, you lose out on opportunities because you're instantly looking for fault. When you're looking for fault, that vibration you're putting out will bring you fault. When you're open to opportunities, that's when opportunities come to you. Yeah.
When you look for something wrong, you're gonna find something wrong, right?
And I could find 100 ways why it's not going to work. Dude, you only need one. You only need one reason. You don't need 100, but they are looking for it. There's people out there who are, I was this person though, too. And this is why I know it. Like, in the research world, you try to find the problem and you try to answer the problem, or you try to find all the problems and then solve it. Instead of saying there's no problems, there's only solutions. And that's a whole nother mindset shift.
It is. That's such a great mindset shift, and I think everybody should kind of adopt that, right? There's only solutions, right? Because when you start adopting that, you start thinking in almost like infinite supply, and you stop thinking in scarcity, and scarcity is what
Yep.
creates really all the problems, I think, in my
Mm,
opinion.
yeah, brother, that's such a great point and such an astute observation. Is lack. Lack is limitation. So Einstein said there's two types of people in this world. One type of person believes there's no miracles, nothing's a miracle. The other believes everything's a miracle. And you can choose every day who you want to be. Do you believe everything is a miracle? Do you believe abundance? If you listen to Bob Proctor, he has some excellent meditations on abundance. Everything is abundant. Like there's abundance of trees, leaves, everything. But we get in this concept of scarcity, of lack, limitation, because that's the programming through TV, through media, through food, through everything to keep us in a box, scared, and expressing our opinions on comment boxes instead of using our word, instead of doing the research. So yeah, man, you're spot on with that. One of the and lack and limitation is ego. Abundance is love and God, source, whatever you call it. So when you start making that connection of like everything is abundance, I am abundant, I am a part of this, it takes a lot of stress off your shoulders because you're not trying to get a little piece of the pie. You're realizing there's hundreds of millions of pies out there and you can choose from them. And yeah, it's a big shift. And I do feel like the more you put into your health, water, food, greens, higher nutrients, you start removing EMFs from your home, you start getting grounding, you start doing some of these practices internally, that's when you start releasing these limitations because they're so deeply programmed within us. We don't even know it sometimes because it's not just ours, it's also our fathers, our grandparents, our mothers, all of the generational things that we have to heal. We have to choose to heal. Most of us don't, and we live in it and we're stuck in it.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, it's a sad thing, but that's where people like yourself come in, right? With education and the selfless kind of helping people realize and giving information as well. So
Yeah, thank you for that. And it's being an example, right? Embodiment is I would say is what this world's going towards. Authenticity of embodiments. There's nothing I won't share with anybody who asks me the question, right? Because I'm an embodiment of who I am. I'm just being who I am. I'm acting how I am. There's no portraying something I'm not. And that's a world that we're shifting away from. And then some people are still stuck in it. They need to show the Instagram, they need to show the Facebook, they need to show this life that's great. And then inside they're not happy whatsoever. So yeah, it's through our daily actions, like you just doing this, right? Showcasing individuals, allowing their voice to get out there, that's going to help them in so many ways. And that energy is going to come back to you and to your community and to your expansion. So yeah, it's just doing those small things every day and just being an embodiment of that higher version of yourself that you know you are.
yeah, well, thank you for that. Definitely. I mean, I love the featuring different voices, and I really think the conversation that we're having today is just it's absolutely wonderful. It's phenomenal. I think everybody needs to hear this, and the information needs to get out there. But just kind of shifting a little bit
Mm-hmm.
and going into what you're working on now and what your vision is for the future as well, because I remember last time we were talking, you had a wonderful vision of combining some of the experiences that you've had in the past and bringing that to light. And I do think it's important because one of the reasons why I think this is so important that we have the conversation we did today is because a lot of entrepreneurs today are very busy and they're very business focused and they're ignoring their health, and they say they're too busy and they don't have time. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, love to hear the vision that you have right now and moving forward as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, so many of those things that I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
totally. um, One of the biggest shifts for me recently has been my acceptance of focusing on feeling good over action. I was programmed in so many ways, the more calls I did, the more people I talked to, the more sales I would do. The more and the more, that, make 100 calls, you make 200 calls because you're the man, like that bullshit. Like what I've learned is like our thoughts become our reality. We attract what we vibrate, what we feel, how we are. And so my essence now, my calling, what's coming into me is that I'm here to be an embodiment to show other entrepreneurs, other people who are desiring to live a more authentic, embodied lifestyle. I'm going to show them how to do it. I'm going to show them how I'm doing it and allow them to create it for themselves. So, for example, somebody asked me the other day, he's a very, very successful financially in his business. And then you look at and I was talking to him, he's like, I haven't been out of my chair since 9 a.m. And it was like 5 p.m. He's been grinding, right? Like, the terminology, man, like grind it, keep working harder, have the more calls. What if I told you you could actually manifest your lifestyle without having to make 100 calls? What if I told you it was more effective? What if I told you wealthy people don't make phone calls? So what I'm choosing to learn is learning from those who know how to manifest their true desires through feeling good. So when I was talking to my brother, he was like all in his chair and he's like, yeah, he makes a lot of money, but he doesn't seem like he's enjoying it. Like he will share that he's enjoying it, but I'm like, okay, that's his story. That's what he's into. And he asked me, oh, what did I do today? Yeah, man, I rose around 7. I did yoga, breath work. I meditated. I went to the beach with my dog. I went for a little swim. I jogged with her later. I got in about 12 o'clock and I started really calling in what I'm working on. And at 3 o'clock, somebody called me to work with me because somebody connected them with me. I did no phone calls, Kobe. I did nothing. I never met this person before. But the frequency that I had myself at, the level, the vibration attracted, because we're all antennas, right? We put out a frequency and it comes back. What came back to me was somebody who owns 6 dealerships, car dealerships, and he's interested about water. I didn't have to make any phone calls, Kobe. Nothing. I got an introduction. I have somebody who's going to be purchasing 6 machines for his dealerships. He has 30 to 40 car dealers, salespeople who are going to be interested because it's about residual and leveraged income. Cars are just one and done, right? So, and the health and the happiness that's going to come in car dealerships, they're going to be hydrated and feeling good. People aren't going to be stressed out going to car dealership. So it's because I chose to stay in my power and do this route. And this is why I'm here in Puerto Vallarta. This is why I have a beautiful view of the ocean, is because I chose to invest in my health, invest in myself, invest in my education. And I'm not just saying money, I'm saying time also, time, energy, and believing. So what I'm cultivating here is that concept, showing people how they can create that through mentorship, and at the same time leveraging my background in real estate, my background in investments, my background in water, business building, communications, you name it, health, and I'm putting it all into one. So, being an intuitive consultant of helping people, guiding them to what their needs are. Are they interested in moving to Mexico? Do they need help with visas? Would they just like to have a home here and avoid a lot of the weird taxes and all the weird restrictions? Would they like to invest into some lifestyle here? Great. I'm going to have a beautiful firm here with local agents speaking English, speaking Spanish, that are going to be able to help them. And it's going to be at a higher frequency. These aren't going to be people who are just like trying to, sell houses. These are going to be people who are community members that I'm going to teach them how to sell houses in an authentic way, where they don't have to make it a business. They make it a lifestyle. They just are in service. So that's one of the visions is to create here in Puerto Vallarta and then branch it out. There's Tulum, there's other places, Mexico City. So I see this model being very easily duplicated, and being at ease. And you mentioned before is like, don't ignore your past, bring in your past and leverage it. What are you good at? What can you bring? And how can you help more people without having to sell yourself? Most people try to sell themselves. I'm just speaking out what I'm putting out. So after this call, I would not be surprised. I I claim that there will be new clients coming in after this call, even if they don't listen to this podcast, but it's the vibration I put out there, the signal. Now somebody heard something. You'd be surprised on what the universe could actually provide for you when you start just vocalizing it. And I know that's hippity dippity woo woo, but it works, man. Like it works, and it works. And because I've been in that realm of 200 phone calls, making all these connections, trying to put them in a system, trying to duplicate them. It's just expand yourself, right? Expand yourself. Don't duplicate yourself. Expand yourself. And so, yeah, that's one of my visions. Outside of that, man, I'm learning more about gold and silver and precious metals investing. I'm really getting passionate about that because it's something tangible. I see it. I see how millennials need to start doing more of it, because we all know what crypto can do. Yeah, it can pop, but it also can burst. And we also know that precious metals are consistent. And I feel millennials and my people my age are looking for more consistency, while also having some crypto and some fun, but they want to build legacies and generational wealth. So doing it by embodiment. So I'm going through the process now. I'm learning how to buy it. I'm learning how to do all these things so I can then show other people how to do it. And then, yeah, my second book's going to be out in 2022 sometimes, but it's coming. It's being written, it's being spoken, and the more I do things like this, the easier it is, because it's just manifestation. It's just one step at a time. And yeah, but I'm sitting at a place where I was a year and a half ago when I was editing my first book. Same place. I came back to the same place because I knew the view, I knew everything, and it just yeah. So I'm here, and it's just embracing it. And as much as people think I work a lot, I don't. I create a lot, and that's the difference. I create a lot. I make good connections, and I generally want to help people. I'm just there to. I love seeing people that I brought into businesses make more money than me. I love that. Because for me, it's not so much, oh, am I making more money than them? I'm like, am I able to enjoy 12 until 12 o'clock without my phone? Am I able to enjoy that part of my life and still be successful? Cool, I'm going to try that. And I feel like people are desiring that. They want less on their phones, less on the trying to market, and they're calling in that ability to have multiple sources of income and to create that wealth that we're all worthy of.
Yeah. That's so beautiful, Kevin. And I like the tagline of our this podcast, essentially, the tagline of my podcast is, I want to help real estate agents around the world build a lifestyle that they never need a vacation from.
Beautiful.
And that's exactly what you're doing. You're helping people build a lifestyle, right? Not hit metrics or, hit this or that or goals or those are good things, but it's the sustainable lifestyle that you build. And you don't want to build your lifestyle on your business. You want to build your business around your lifestyle, right?
You want to realize your lifestyle is your business.
That's even better.
How you live is a reflection, like as within, so without. So the more you invest inside in yourself, in your health, in your room, in your space, that's the vibration you're going to put out, and that's going to be what you attract in. And you won't have to help people. People are going to come to you and be like, Kobe, what are you doing, man? Show me. And that's the sauce right there. It's the embodiments, right? So it's awesome what you're doing, and you're taking steps, and your leagues farther than I was at your age. So it's awesome to see, bro.
All right. Well, thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much. And I know, you got this beautiful weather behind you, and like you said, in front of you as well. It's super awesome. Let you get back to enjoying it. And just for our listeners out there who want more information or who want to reach out to you because it resonated with them, how they can get access to your book and how they can get access to having a conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first and last name, Kevin Work. You can check me out on Instagram or on Facebook. I'm there. Um, Also, my website's coming out soon. It's going to be kevinwork.com, and it's exciting. I'm really excited for that. So, yeah, find me there, connect with me. Anything I can do to support, watch me for a while, see if I'm a true embodiment of what I do. And yeah, let me know what you think.
Yeah, well, I've watched you for a while. We've known each other for quite a while, and I definitely know you're an embodiment of what you say and what you help others to do as well. So I'll leave that information in our show notes below. Thank you so much, Kevin, for being a guest on my show. And
Absolutely.
yep. And for your listeners out there, this is a really, really important conversation that we just had. So if you really felt some kind of value in it, please share it with your friends. Like Kevin said, educate somebody, offer to help, offer to give more information as well. But other than that, guys, really appreciate you guys for tuning in and sticking with us to the end here. Really hope you got some value out of this episode. And I will see you on the next show. Take care.